I can't figure out how to get the door closed.
On the,
Yes, I Yes,
what is that? Oh, well, but where is it? Soren's went the day before. I mean, no, I think we'll be back because the wedding's on Friday. So we'll be fine. I mean, oh, yeah. Oh, yes, yes, Doug said something about Maybe that. maybe leaving Thursday. I don't know. That would have been done like parks and lands, so that would have been done Thursday. There was some kind of a conflict, I don't remember it. I don't feel like I'm getting curious, right? I'm just trying to be, I never said something about it, and I have to remember Christians to be honest. It's not Friday. Like 6 hours right now, and there are all different things going on. I didn't write it down. Today's the 13th. Even before that, it's Saturday.
I will try and be there.
So what else do you need to do? Right on the brink of big family. And so some things are slipping through the cracks.
There's things you can change and there's things you cannot change.
No worries. I appreciate it.
Gordy doesn't like me anymore. Jesse left.
I can sit over there.
I know.
And keep from falling on my feet.
I know you didn't want your face on the camera. I did.
It's over there. You don't want to see my paper?
All right, it's 7 o'clock. We're gonna call the meeting to order. Everybody is here. Could you please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Minutes of the previous meeting. Has everybody reviewed?
I'll make a motion to approve the previous meeting minutes.
I would like to make one correction. I'd like to make a correction to, I think, it was discussion, or it was my motion to discuss purchase for the sale of the Sister Lake property, and no, that did not move forward, and there was no discussion and no final vote on that, according to the. Is that correct? And that doesn't exactly follow Robert's rules, does it?
was the question?
Well, when we discussed, sale of the Siskwick, Lake property, that parcel, there was no second to that, no, or there was a second to the motion, but no discussion.
There was no second.
No second
There
to
was
it?
no second.
No second, that's why it was.
Oh, it died, okay, all right. Let her ride.
Was there any other comments on the minutes of the previous board meeting? Did you make a motion?
Yes.
And was there a second?
Yes.
Okay. All those in favor of approving the minutes of the previous board meeting, say aye. Aye. All those opposed, say aye. There's no opposed. Clerk's report.
Everything has been status quo for the month. Liquor licenses are all distributed and I'll be doing the quarterly reports and everything's done.
All right, treasurer's report. Everybody get a chance to review?
I'll make a motion to approve the treasurer's report.
I'll second.
The motion's been made and seconded to approve the treasurer's report. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say aye. There's no opposed. Correspondence. We did get some correspondence, a couple of emails today. They were sent out to the whole board. Did everybody read those? Okay, that's all I had, unless somebody else had some more correspondence. All right, committee reports. Do we have anything? Oh. Well, we'll go back to board comments then. What do we have for board comments?
I guess,
Use the mic.
yeah, all others, I just want to say that the recycling center, Tasha and Rico are doing a really good job. They went down for the 4th of July, put some extra containers down there. It was their own initiative. And the beach is nice and clean. They're working really well with RD and the Matt and the crew. And I just want to report that I think everything is going really well at the recycle center. Thanks.
Thank you. All right, committee reports. Do we have anything that hasn't been sent out to the board? All right. Sanitary district report.
As some of you probably know, we had to shut down the marina bathrooms yesterday and maybe even today. Basically, we had some extensive work we had to do on lift station number 2. So we had to get Tri-State up here. They're a vendor out of the Twin Cities. 2-man crew had to come up and we're anxiously awaiting the bill for this. So anyway, we were shut down. We should be back to normal soon. We finished our annual report. It's called the CMAR, Comprehensive Maintenance Annual Report. Basically, we graded better than we did the previous year, and we were not over our design capacity because we limited the amount of hauled waste into our facility. If anyone has any questions, I'll answer them if that's proper.
What was the problem with the toilet?
Pardon?
What was the problem with the toilet?
There's nothing wrong with the toilet. The lift station.
Oh, okay.
Basically, the lift stations have been on the ground more than 30 years now, and stuff just wears out. So we had to change a bunch of the insides of the lift stations. The lift stations themselves are fine. It was all the piping and things of that nature that had to be replaced.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, moving on. Public comment period.
You turn this off?
Yeah, I did.
Chairman Lazarek, the agenda items as listed by you have created alarm, concern for me. I realize that I do not yet know your intention or rationale for the idea of rescinding the two ordinances listed under new business, and I'm interested in hearing you share your thinking. It has left me with questions such as how will the increasing number of permit requests be handled going forward? In April, I did a review of permits issued over the past year. These are listed on the Bayfield County Planning and Zoning Permits issued, or Planning and Zoning Permits issued section of that webpage. At Planning Commission, we saw at least 10 of those permits, and many permits we do not even see that pertain to the town of Bell because the request is within compliance of the county laws. Since then, we have had 6 more permits on which we've acted to advise the board. Both of the numbers that I've mentioned reflect a big increase over the previous year's activities coming through the town of Bell. What will happen to the required updating to the comprehensive plan, which was enacted by Wisconsin Statute 66.1001 in October of 1999? The town of Bell started work on a comprehensive plan in 2005, and in December of 2009, the ordinance listed on the agenda was adopted. Will the comp plan be returned to the shelf? And I say return to the shelf with total seriousness. Then be used as a guide in local government decision making. It too is to be seen as an advisory guide, just as is the Planning Commission. And why rescind versus amend if there are perceived issues with the concept of a Planning Commission and or Parks and Lands Committee? What does it feel like? It translates in my world as a suppression of input from the electors and property owners at a level where public input might improve communication and outcomes for the good of the whole. Sometimes it's messy, but it is democracy in action. Thank you for taking your time to listen.
Thank you. Next,
So on that note, I'd like to thank. All right, so on that note, I'd like to thank Jackie and the commission team. I've got to watch you in action 4 or 5 times now. I came to look and listen and learn what the processes are as they apply to myself as I'm going through this drill with Bayfield County also. So I figured I'd pick up an edge on whatever I can do. The thing that really kind of caught my attention is the fact that you have a really nice mix of people that are older, that lived in Cornucopia for a while, but you've got people that are younger, came in with new ideas, progressive, but there was no fights at the table. It was consensus. And the one thing that really impressed me is you sat down and you wrote out a plan. You hit the, how does that call it? The elephant sandwich, the short-term rental plan. And you basically bid on it one bite at a time. You just about finished that sandwich last night, but it's into a good draft. So I asked the board, when you make your decision, come up with a transfer plan and bring in their input and their product, and sit down as a group, a joint working group. If you keep the commission going, then just solicit their input and have more feedback, more action items. If you dissolve the commission, then please think about the timeline when you're going to do that. Don't make an instantaneous drop. There's a lot of good work and a lot of hard work that went into their efforts. That's all I've got. Thank you.
thank you. Yes, Gina?
First of all, is this on?
Not sure.
First of all, I appreciate living in the town here. I've lived here for almost 20 years. And I feel like I'm a big part of this community. And I appreciate the township stewardship on maintaining Siskiyou Lake Boat Landing and campground. We only ask that stewardship be applied to the 35 acres of the lake. Since the town board has voted to keep the 35 acres on the southeast side of Lake Siskiyou, There's concern and questions about the intent of use of the land now and in the future. What options are being considered? Will it be logged? Will there be clear cut? Will there be a buffer zone? If cut, to protect the view and runoff. The quality of this lake provides its residents and the public should be valued and preserved for generations to come. And I ask that this issue be addressed in the August meeting agenda. I am also part of the Parks and Lands, and I have put 15 years in the Parks and Lands. And to have it disband, we try to take consideration of all viewpoints and do what is best for the public. And I would hate to see just a willy-nilly disbanding of things of this ordinance. Thank you.
Yes.
Okay, I just want to say that the activity on Stage Road over the holiday weekend was a lot better. Very manageable. People looked like they were respectful, and I want to say thank you to whomever was involved in getting that in order. I'd like to see it like that all the time. We actually had a very nice holiday weekend. It was beautiful. Barbecuing, no dust going in my grill. Okay, so thank you. Anyways, on the second note is I'd like to some information on who is allowed to go up to the gravel pit and dump. Because there's no longer a lock up there. Nick and I own that property. In order to get there, you need to have a key, but now the key has disappeared and everybody is willy-nilly going up there and dumping. I've seen trucks go up there, cars go up there, and I think it should be supervised. I mean, I don't need people throwing their crap. I don't know what they're putting up there. It could be runoff eventually down into our properties and our wells. If it's oil or if it's, materials that could be bad. I mean, for years it's been going on, but now we own the property. We would really like it a little bit more closely monitored. And we would appreciate a key because there was one and now the lock disappeared. So if somebody just, threw it out or whatever, Mick has put a wire on there. He's working on Ike's old Quonset. We're going to build another building. And the activity going up and down and up and down, we don't really have a problem with the noise, but who thinks, it says unauthorized vehicles are not allowed. There was hunters up there, not hunters, trap shooting. Memorial Day weekend, 2 guys went in from Minnesota. Mick addressed the issue. They undid the wire tie and went in there and they had traps shooting and Mick just asked them to leave and they did and they rewired the gate. But there's a gate there and it's our property. So if you want to keep using it, I think we should probably monitor it a little closely so the town can dispose of what they need to dispose of. The marina can dispose of what they can dispose of. But with those workers, that doesn't mean that they have a right to dispose of their own crap at the same time that they're getting rid of stuff for the town. Thank you. That's it.
Thank you. Thank you. Doug?
Thank you for this opportunity to address the board. I've been volunteering on Parks and Lands for a number of years, and last year I got thrust into the chairmanship, which is fine. I'm just kind of learning the ropes as to go about the town. A lot about the town I don't know, but some of the accomplishments over the years have been quite impressive. Parks and Lands have done. They have solicited volunteer funds to build a seawall and maintain it. Last year we did weeding and maintain that seawall. We maintain beaches all along our benches at the beach off of Superior Avenue. We're planning on painting tables this week at the Swenson Pavilion. We installed ropes around the boats that don't float to discourage children from playing there and possibly injury. We maintained playground equipment. We installed a donated bench at the lakefront for a minimum cost to the town, just some boards. And people have enjoyed it. I've seen people there all the time enjoying the lakefront view. We ensure that funds are available for maintenance of the porta potties at the marina bathrooms and at the Cisco campground. We helped draft an ordinance for the transient vendors. We installed a collection box at Cisco Lake Boat Launch and our monthly collected monies. We regulate the Cisco Lake campground to accommodate the wishes of surrounding lakefront owners. We installed several solar lights in the parking lot. That was done by volunteers and it was just cost. I got an estimate of $10,000 to $15,000 to have it professionally installed. We went an inexpensive side, but I think they're adequate for our needs right at the moment. We coordinated planting of an ornamental tree out front and with the gardening group to make sure our approach to the CC is beautiful. Plant grass at the lakefront dunes to maintain the stability of the dunes. We had a volunteer host. Unfortunately, they couldn't come back this year, but to hold on our costs at the campground. They cleaned it, they collected the fees, and maintained it while they were there. These and many other projects are done with virtually an entire volunteer group. And I would like to see the Parks and Lands continue as they are. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, Bruce.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I sent out an email to the board here a couple days ago. And my first question is, you talked about correspondence at the beginning here. Is that considered correspondence or not correspondence, or is that something else then, as far as me sending an email to the board?
Yes.
Yeah, you sent it to the board, so if everybody got it, I'm not gonna read it at the meeting unless you request it to be
Okay,
read at the meeting.
Okay, so moving on from that then, I don't know if you guys, I realized this a couple of days ago, and if how many of you had a chance to relook at it, think about it. But I know you do not like comments during your discussions of issues, old business and new business. So is there a way as we move forward that some way we can make comments or questions even about when you have these discussions on old and new business? Or would it be better, do you think, moving the comment period to the end of the meeting? And again, I'm not saying how I want you to do it, I'm just kind of throwing that out. Do you have any suggestions on how we can accomplish that? Any thoughts?
Yeah, Paul and I talked about it as well, after your comments, and I think we'll try just having 2 comment periods, one at the beginning and one at the end, because we're not gonna have a discussion amongst the audience when we're discussing business.
Okay, that's fine.
But if you wanna have something at the end, I think that makes a lot of sense, because there's things that come up you might wanna address at the end of the meeting, so then there'd be a comment
Yeah,
period.
not like I want this thing to go on, and but
Right.
yeah, just for something that bring up. Very good. Thank you very much.
Yep.
Yes, Roger.
So, okay, I emailed my comment to the board, Mr. Chairman. And so I'll make it short, and I'm just requesting that you reconsider the solar group. We have a new proposal which does not include anything about batteries, does not include anything about charging of electric vehicles. It's strictly a net metering deal, which would be a cost savings for the town. So I ask that you please reconsider. Thank you.
Comments?
All right, we're gonna move on to the old business portion. Corny Fish Shed sanitary hookup. Last night at the Harbor Commission meeting, we approved their plan for the hookup to the sanitary district. And it's kind of just on the town's agenda, so that it is town property, so we should approve it or give it the okay. Is there any questions on it? I know we've talked about it several times.
Jesse?
No comment, but I'd like to make a motion.
Okay.
I move to allow the fish shed to hook up to the sanitary district in the town of Bell.
I'll second.
The motion has been made and seconded. Is there any more comments? All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say aye. No opposed. Green shed, apply for historic building status.
Yeah. Hi, everybody. So when the proposed visitor center / museum idea was nixed at a public meeting, it became apparent that the green shed needed work. And so I've been with some other folks. We've been looking at grant opportunities, and I have a new appreciation for why this board said yes to looking at the visitor center and the scenic byway grant, because grants are hard to come by. So I have a new appreciation for that. So the point being, there's not too many grants out there. There's a Wisconsin Coastal Management Grant that looks promising, and that would pay about 40% of any project over $60,000. Based on the numbers from the previous proposal, we're thinking $60,000 to move the building and move it back, and about $130,000 to put the foundation and do it right. I think if we're going to do anything, we should do it right. And so the town is looking at a $200,000 cost. Well, if we get 40% from the, that's a big if, we're still going to be $100,000 plus short. So there's a grant out there that does look promising, but in order to apply for that grant, you have to have historical building status. And I've been in contact with the Wisconsin Historical Society, and they have a very simple questionnaire, and then they will make a decision on whether or not they would accept an application from us. So you have to apply to apply. As we dig into the application, it's a lot of work. They recommend you hire a consultant to help you navigate the system. And then it'll take probably a year to a year and a half for a designation to be determined, at which time, if we do get historical registered building status at the state level, there are 3 levels. There's local, state, and federal. We need to be approved at the state level in order to even apply for this other grant. So I'm looking for help. What do we want to do? Do we really want to fix the green shed once and for all, or do we want to just kind of doing what we're doing now? We're replacing the boards, maybe we'll fix the cracks. It's a town building. We either are going to, patch it until it's gone, or we do it right. And my idea is to have a town meeting and hash this out, and with as many people as we can possibly get to the meeting and get as many ideas. It's a lot of work to apply for these grants, and if we still are $50,000 short, we have to go to the voters to ask for the $50,000. So why not kind of find out maybe ahead of time what the voters think? Do we really want a museum? Do we really want that green shed preserved? You know, I'm willing to do the work, but I don't want to drive it into a dead end. You know what I mean? I think that's kind of the mistake that was made previously, frankly, was at some point, the $1.4 million visitor center was going to have to come to a vote for the people that they wanted to come up with $280,000. And that was, pretty roundly rejected. We're not going to need an amount of money anywhere near that amount, but we're going to need a significant amount of money from the town of Bell to do this. And I guess I'm looking for help as to, do we want to do this?
Well, first of all, the agenda has applied for historic building status, so we're not gonna have a discussion about everything else.
Okay.
Or vote on everything
That's a
else
good
until it's on the agenda, so I guess, what do you want on the historic building status application? Right? You wanna wait on that? Because that's what we're really discussing.
Well, I guess I wouldn't mind filling out the questionnaire, so I'll move that we proceed in applying for historic building status with the caveat that it costs the town no money.
The motion is made and seconded, and is that just for the questionnaire, or?
We have to get that through first. If the questionnaire, if they say, yeah, this looks promising, we approve it, then I think we need to have a deeper, longer discussion on whether or not we want to go down that route. But for now, I'm more than willing to fill out the questionnaire. It would take me an hour or two to fill it out. And we would know in about a month what the state thought about it.
Could you read the motion back?
Paul Ellers moved to proceed to apply for the historical status with the caveat, no cost to taxpayers, second by Jesse Casino.
Would it be possible maybe to just change that to just apply to the questionnaire and not apply for the actual status?
Sure, that's fine. I'll amend the motion to, I'll move that we apply, we fill out the questionnaire with the State Historical Society. Is that okay with you, Jesse?
Okay, Jesse still seconds the motion. So the motion to fill out the questionnaire for the historical building status has been made and seconded. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say aye. No opposed.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. All right, Luth Class A Special Use Short-Term Rental. Jackie?
At the planning commission meeting last night, we reviewed Lacey Lewis, Class A special use for short-term rental. And motion was made and seconded to recommend approval of the Class A special use.
Is that a motion as well?
Sure.
Okay. Yeah. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
The motion has been made and seconded to approve the Class A special use short-term rental. Is there any more discussion? All right, all those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say aye. There's no opposed. ATV, UT access and speed limits. Has there been anything on that?
Okay, hold on, I gotta get the other notes out. On June 19th, I did email our attorney. I did hear back from her on the 20th. She has added it to her to-do list, and that is in regards to an ordinance to allow from Cisco Falls Road to Highway 13 for ATVs, UTVs to access that portion of it. And on the speed limits, I did talk to Matt Hipsher, and We talked about how many signs. I have talked to Marcy in between, and we do have a volunteer group, because one of the, concerns that Matt had was snow plowing. Signs that get knocked over, and we have volunteers to help put them up. And if need be, remove them in the winter so that they don't get destroyed with plowing. So we're just, as in anything, when you order, you just gotta sit and wait, so.
All right, thank you. Moving on to new business. I'm gonna kind of address 1 and 2 at the same time a little bit, and then we'll start with 1. But number 1 is ordinance to rescind Parks and Lands Committee ordinance. And number 2 is ordinance to rescind Plan Commission ordinance. And I wanna, I guess, give my thinking on this and reasoning for it. And the biggest thing I got is direct accountability to the electors. And none of this means that we can't have a Parks and Lands Committee. It doesn't mean that we can't have a committee to review anything with the plan. But what I have a problem with is that we appoint people that serve longer than us. And there's, with the Parks and Lands ordinance that was created, they gave a lot of powers to the Parks and Lands Committee, and I understand that that was done for to make things easier for the board, but and for everybody to just make a situation where they could act on things. But I think the accountability needs to come back to the board and back to the electors, so that when you're voting for somebody, or if you don't like what I'm doing, you can vote for somebody else, and you're not just hoping that who you vote for appoint somebody to a position that acts on something in a manner that you want. So, I guess a big other thing is, I think whatever we do with this, we need to get back to a place where the direction of these committees comes from the town board and not from the committee itself. Committees shouldn't be asking the board for recommendations. We should be asking the committees for recommendations. I think it needs to be, just more accountable directly to the electors. So, and I just want to say, it's not about the people in any of these situations, it's about the policy, and I want to have a conversation about it, so I put it on the agenda, and we're going to talk about it. So, who wants to go first?
I'll go. I respect what you're talking about, Matt. I'm just curious as to what you're referring to. I mean, can you give us some specific examples? Say for the Parks and Lands.
I guess, what do you mean as far as?
Well, I mean, you're looking for more accountability, and you think there has been use of authority that wasn't granted, and I guess I would like to see some examples of that.
No, you're misunderstanding.
I've been on Parks and Lands since we lived in town practically, and I think it's been a quite well-run committee, and I don't think that we have stepped on anybody's toes, and I don't think we haven't taken authority that wasn't ours. I mean, we didn't even have a budget until last year, so I mean, I just don't. I don't see where you're going, but that's all.
Well, you're misunderstanding me. I'm not saying accountability of the Parks and Lands Committee. I'm saying accountability of the board. The board making decisions, making any ultimate decisions, and the direction coming from the board is what I'm looking for. And as second on what you're saying, you're talking about two different things in a way. I'm talking about, we can still have a Parks and Lands Committee. I'm not saying that, because a lot of the things you're talking about, a lot of the things Doug brought up, the things that were accomplished, were done before this ordinance. So I'm just saying, I don't like the ordinance.
No. You're mistaken.
No, that's not true.
You said like ropes around the boats. Those ropes were there many years ago.
I put those up about 3 years ago.
Oh, they
Doug and I.
Okay, they replaced them, but
Doug and I.
there were ropes put up there.
There's nothing there. There was nothing there.
Yeah.
Wasn't it about 10 years ago? When was that? Were you on the Black Harbor Commission?
We put
Yes,
the-
Carl.
we put the posts
One
in.
second, if
We put
somebody
the
could
posts in.
remember what,
8 years ago, there was no ropes around it.
Okay.
You're right, Matt. I'm just gonna say that.
okay, thank you. All right. But I'll stand corrected, I'm wrong on that, but either way, there were lots of things that happened with Parks and Lands Committee. The Parks and Lands did a lot of things before this ordinance, is what I'm saying. So I'm not saying anything good or bad happened differently, I'm saying that I don't like the ordinance.
Okay, what's wrong with the ordinance?
Well, like I just said, it gives authority to the Parks and Lands Committee, and the people on that are appointed for longer than the people that are elected to serve.
3 years.
Town, yeah, the town is elected for 2 years.
And we're unpaid.
We're unpaid.
We're all
Okay.
volunteers.
We're volunteers.
I understand that, but what does it have to do with the ordinance?
Do you want to be just doing it in direct?
We're not talking, no, I'm sorry, but
No, I guess I just cannot understand what the object of rescinding the ordinance is when it's functioning quite well. I don't see the point.
well, I just told you my point, that I don't agree with any of the, items that are in the ordinance that were giving any kind of authority to work on your own when the direction should come from the town board. If something needs to happen, why can't that direction come from the town board?
So you're telling me that if something needs minor attention, like fixing a doorknob someplace, or this should come to the board, we have no authority to do that?
No, that's not what I said.
I think you did.
No, that, I'm saying, when you're discussing selling a bunch of land, of town land,
We were investigating it, and this came down because we were looking at the current campground, and there has been some discussion from local residents that it wasn't being used the way it was really originally intended to be used, even though there was a sunset clause on it of 25 years. And we were investigating the possibility of putting a campground across the lake on that other property. And then because of that, we said, well, maybe that's not the best thing to do. And well, what's the value of that property? We want to know what the value is. So we went out and got an appraisal of it, just to see what we're dealing with over there. We didn't have any plans. We invited Jason Bodine to come over from the county, because they own all the property around it, and said, what's your intent on that property? We were just doing our basic research just to see what we're dealing with of it. We have no intention of making any action, because we knew that it had to go to the electors. But we got lambasted over it because we were just doing research. And we were taking no action. We knew it had to come to the board. And apparently this is where this is stemming from, and I don't understand it.
well, in part it is, but that's not the whole point. I mean, like I said, I don't agree that we had to have an ordinance that delegated or took authority and gave it to, I shouldn't say take authority, but gave just authority to the Parks and Lands Committee to do things like that, to do anything without asking or coming from the town board. Why can't we have committees that take direction from the town board, from the elected officials? Why does all have to go get permission to look at getting a permit from the county when he's looking at a roof over the boats that don't float?
We did talk to the board about it.
About which one?
About that property, because we had to get permission to get an appraisal, and it was granted.
Well, I don't know anything about it.
Well, you apparently weren't there.
No, I
You
wasn't.
weren't at that meeting, so that's not our problem.
No, but that doesn't change the way I feel about the rest of it. I think it needs to come from the.
That, I think you need to make a better argument.
Yes.
So I'm new to the board. I don't know when these ordinances were passed.
The ordinance numbers that you.
Oh, that's.
2019 is Parks and Lands.
Okay, 16 and 17.
And by the way, both of those numbers, those years on there are incorrect. It's 2019 rather than 2016-6. And also, the planning commission ordinance should have been 2007-11, not 2017-01.
So I guess if anybody was on the board in 2019, what was, I guess I'd like to know why these ordinances were passed. I would.
Well, that was one, the one was 2019.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying, I mean, I guess I want to know, there must have been a rationale for passing the ordinance in the first place. And so I'd like, I'd kind of like to know why the ordinance was created. I mean, did we not function as a town until 2019? I mean, obviously stuff was getting done. So I mean, so there, something happened in 2019, we passed an ordinance. Why?
In response to that, that was on the board then. We were also in the midst of creating the Harbor Commission, which was brought to our attention by our town attorney, that we couldn't have a marina committee any longer. We needed to have a Harbor Commission. And as we were working on that ordinance, it was basically the Harbor Commission ordinance that was revamped into a Parks and Lands ordinance. I do remember, and I dug and I dug and I dug, and I did not find the email. I was even back in my old CheckNet emails, which are still on here. I'm not good at deleting stuff, but sometimes it comes in handy.
Yeah.
And I do remember a comment back at that time that related to creating the Parks and Lands ordinance, with it being an ordinance for a committee, not a commission, but a committee. And the question was brought up by the attorney, do you want a committee to have that much power? That was a comment that did come up. I did pull up I have the ordinance right here. And it does talk about a $40 stipend per meeting. But whether people decide to take the stipend or not, that's up to them. And like, here's one paragraph in this ordinance. And this is for a committee, not a commission, not the town board. Committee is authorized to let contracts relative to construction, repair, or maintenance of the parks and lands and facilities, or the purchase of equipment, supplies, or materials relative to carrying out the purposes of the statutes relating to the parks and lands. If the committee determines that it is not equipped to handle the contracting formalities required under this section, it may by resolution defer to the town board and or town department all or part of its function under this section. And so basically, unless there's something that Parks and Lands, they're not sure that they can handle, there's a paragraph right there that lets Parks and Lands go ahead. It doesn't say anything about any board approval, but it right there talks about, being able, that they're authorized to make some of these decisions.
They could contract with someone, they could sign a contract to get some work done without the board approval.
It says here, it was under section 12B. The committee is authorized to let contracts relative to construction, repair, or maintenance of parks and lands and facilities for the purchase of equipment, supplies, or materials relative to carrying out the purpose of statutes relating to parks and lands.
So
there was a question that did come up, and I dug for that email. I ain't dug deep enough yet, I guess. But there was a question about that. And basically, this ordinance is very similar to the Harbor Commission. It was basically the Harbor Commission ordinance that was edited to create the Parks and Lands ordinance.
Yeah, I guess I'd like to read the whole ordinance. That paragraph bothers me though. Before I make a decision on anything. I guess I'm gonna move that we table Well, I guess we don't have a motion. Well, I guess I'll move that we table new business items 1 and 2 until we can get copies of the ordinances to each town board member.
They're actually on the website.
Yeah, they're on the website.
Well, then I apologize for not being prepared for tonight's meeting.
Are you still making a motion?
No, I will rescind the motion.
Okay. So, Jesse?
I guess I'd like to say I want to just read both of the ordinances.
Can't hear.
Your microphone. I just wanted to read both of the ordinances and.
Still can't hear.
I'd like to make sure that we all get a chance to read that, both of those ordinances complete till we make any rash decisions.
So I'll make a motion to table item number 1 under new business.
I'll second it.
The motion has been made and seconded to table item number 1 under new business. Is there any more discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say aye. No opposed. Then I'll make a motion that we table number 2 under new business.
I'll second that.
The motion has been made and seconded to table number 2 under new business. Is there any other discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say aye. No opposed. All right, number 3. Apply for county land use permit for a structure around the boats that don't float.
Okay, well, here's where I need help again. In my conversations with people about what should be done with the green shed, the topic of the boats came out, and they said, well, what about the boats? And there's some sentiment to preserving them. And the only idea that came forth was to put shelters over the top of them, build roofs over them. And I went to the Parks and Lands, and we had a nice conversation about that, and I made it real clear that I didn't know if that was a good idea, and I didn't necessarily want to put roofs over them, but I wanted to find out if we could put roofs over them. If that makes any sense. Is that clear as mud, or does that make some sense?
Clear as mud.
Okay, well, I didn't want to go through the debate and the argument and the drama about whether or not we should build shelters over the boats if we couldn't do it anyway. So I wanted to find out first if it was even possible. And so the Parks and Lands, I want to make it real clear, they did not say, let's build shelters over the boats. They just said, let's find out if we can. That application costs $75. There's $330 in the Save the Boats Fund for some reason. Well, I know why, but anyway, I'm donating my salary to that fund, so you know where I stand on it. And I'll get that taken care of. But anyway, I guess I'd like to move that we spend $75 to fill out the permit application. However that's worded. Land use permit with the county. Now, if you guys on the board think that that's not gonna fly, it's a terrible idea, cut me off now.
Well, we need a second so we can have discussion. So I'll second it.
Thank you.
Okay, I want to add to, we did talk about this some time ago. And I don't know if the email is in my archives here,
That's okay.
or my archives or my personal one. Talk to Jessica Rizak. We had talked about it before. She talked to,
Bob Nelson,
okay,
I talked to her last night.
okay, because I was gonna say, because Jessica had talked to him about the boats that don't float. So that's all I have to add.
And it's okay, Jessica said that Bob, he's a preservation guy, he said they were too far down. Just, full disclosure, he said, so the expert said they were too far down.
Oh, as far as trying to resurrect them and all that.
Now, they will last longer if we can keep the water off of them. And some other ideas came out at the Harbor Commission last night. I figure those guys know boats more than I do, so they might have some ideas. And anything that we can do to keep the water from landing on the top and soaking in, they'll last longer. And so ideas such as rolled roofing, putting on there a rubber roof, but I don't think they're structurally strong enough to even do some of that. We'd have to look at it. I thought maybe a canvas, like with the covers that they put over boats, for the winter, like the sailboats, maybe we could get some canvases fitted to put over. I mean, I'm really not crazy about the idea of of like shelters on the beach, and looking out at the water and seeing the shelters. There's a couple trees, maybe they can blend in, maybe not. So, I'm not sold on this idea, but it was an idea that came from a taxpayer to put roofs over it. So, it's not my job to be judge and jury, it's my job to carry this stuff forward. Okay? I don't know what the best, I have no idea what the best thing to do is. So I'm looking for guidance from everybody. But I'd love to see those boats preserved, if possible.
Just one thought. All things are not equal down there, and some of the boats are in worse shape than others. And I can see the value in preserving maybe the best one. I have a hard time covering something that's pretty much rotted out already. But I guess there is some redemption in saving one of them. And that would be the one on the far, what's up, the Liberty? Or the Eagle?
So Liberty's the fishing boat.
The one on furthest east.
That's
I think
what
that's the Liberty.
Blue
Yeah.
one?
Yeah. And I think that one's in the best shape
Yeah,
as far as I know. And I guess that would make some sense to do that or attempt to do it. So that's just my 2 cents.
Did you, as far as the application goes, were you gonna apply for just one structure or several? Or is this what we're talking about?
I think I'll just apply for one and just see what they, excuse me. I was thought I would just apply for one. I have to draw a sketch of it. So I'll be looking for an artist to help me draw a sketch, but on the application, because I don't think a stick figure is gonna look too good. But yeah, I was thinking just find out if the county's even gonna let us do anything like that. It's so close to it might all be a moot point. And to me, it's worth $75 to find out. I guess we'll open up the can. The thing is, if we pass this motion, we're opening up then maybe a can of worms. Because if they say yes.
Now we gotta find money.
Well, it depends on what it costs. Yeah. But, But that would be another argument later.
But yeah, I guess I just brought it up for what you just brought up yourself, is you're gonna have to draw a diagram of the land where you're putting it, so I think Gordy's right, that's the best, that would be the best way to go, if we're gonna do something, the best one to save is that one, so, on your, for what you're laying out your application, you can use that for the structure, that's where it's gonna go. That's what I'm going.
Yeah, and I thought, if we could put a cover over the roofs that didn't hurt the sightline. Like, if we put, a canvas that, people wouldn't see it, but it would still preserve it a little while. I mean, I'm hoping there wouldn't be too much opposition to something like that.
So,
No, I don't have any more.
all right, motion has been made and seconded to apply for a land use permit for a cover over the Liberty, is that,
Yes, that's fine.
okay? All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say aye. There's no opposed.
I know what I'll be doing for the next few weeks.
All right, moving on to number 4, Clayburg utility easement for private utility crossing under a town road. I'm gonna recuse myself from this one and turn it over to Jackie.
Okay, we, at the planning commission last night, talked about the Clayburg utility easement for private utility crossing under the town road. And essentially what it's for is he has land on both sides of the road, and it's to have a septic system, like septic field. And at the planning commission meeting last night, a motion was made and approved to recommend, made and seconded, I'm sorry, to recommend approval of the utility easement for Clayburg. So I'm going to make a motion as such that we approve that.
I'll second that motion.
Oh, I'm sorry, motion's been made and seconded. Sorry about that. My mind's not here right now, trust me. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? No opposed, motion passes.
All right, thank you. Moving on, number 5, Parks and Lands Committee hiring secretary, Gordy.
Yes, the Parks and Lands Committee has need of a secretary, and Judy Becker has been filling in since April, I believe it was. We need board approval to hire a secretary. She was secretary prior to that, but then she stepped off the board because her term expired. She does an excellent job, and we would love to have her on there on a long-term basis, and we would like to hire her I think it's like $15 an hour, and she has like 2.5 hours a month committed to it, so in the $40 to $45 range a month. So I am seeking approval for that.
Is that your motion?
Huh?
Is that your motion?
Yeah, I'll make a motion that, yeah, I guess I can make a motion. I would like to make a motion that we hire Judy Becker as Secretary of Parks and Lands.
I'll second.
The motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say aye. No opposed. I don't know how to pronounce this name, so it's just a driveway permit. I sent this out to everybody. Did everybody review that? Well, that's a plus. The only thing we'll have to do is, well, Matt's gonna have to inspect the driveway before it goes in, but otherwise, was there any questions from the board?
I'll make a motion to approve the driveway permit listed on number 6.
I was thinking that for CA.
Something like that, yeah.
I wasn't-
Yeah.
I wasn't gonna kill it. Oh, you wanna see the actual permit?
Well, the motion's been made and seconded to approve the driveway permit. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say aye. There's no opposed. All right, 7, Clayburg Class A special use permit, shoreline grading. Jackie, I'm gonna recuse myself again, and Jackie, remember to call for a vote, just.
Thanks. Also at the planning commission meeting last night, we had labor class A special use for shoreline grading. And this is grading and culvert prior to building shop, bunkhouse building. And, let's see, that was number 4. There was a motion and a second to recommend approval of the shoreline grading permit for Clayburg. That was a unanimous decision, so that is also my motion to approve. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? No opposed, motion passes.
All right, thank you. We might as well have another public comment period since it's not on the agenda, but I think we can make it work. Is there anybody that'd like to make a comment on the meeting?
Yes, I'd like to make a comment. Phil White, 20755 Ross Street. With regard to the reception.
Microphone. Microphone.
With regard to the proposed action dealing with ordinances, I think it would be foolish to rescind them. You are the town board. You have the power to draft them. I'd suggest you draft them the way you want them. And if having people serving longer than the board is an issue, you have 2 sets of supervisors. They're elected in alternative years. I think part of the reason you do that in local government is so there's some institutional memory. That's maybe short-term, but it's wise. If you have that concern with regard to planning commission and parks and lands, you have the power to amend and to delete their ability to contract. They came to you tonight and asked permission to do it, so I think their intent is there. But you have the authority to amend and take that away, delete that whole provision that people seem to be concerned about, and say that's the power of the town board. So there's no confusion about that. I think the other thing is, you have the power to declare the length of their terms. So if you want them to be 2 years, say they're limited to 2 years. But if you want some institutional memory, say they can only serve 3 consecutive terms or 2 consecutive terms, just like you before you run for re-election again. I think there are solutions to the problems that you seem to have that are based on principle. And I assent to the principle that I think I hear. I'm not clear about it because this is the first time I've heard it, and there wasn't much discussion, very candidly, about that principle, about people serving longer than the members of the town board. I didn't hear one of the board members talk about that. I heard you talk about it, Mr. Chair. So those are my comments. I thank you for instituting the second listening session. I think that's a very good move because people are trying to respect the idea that we don't interrupt. And I think that's important. To have a chance to have a second comment, I think is noteworthy, and I applaud you for doing that. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I would like to speak to the term thing for a second. And this is, we're done with the board meeting, so it's not for discussion, but as far as the planning commission goes, that's set by state statute. We can't change it. When we adopted that, it's in entirety. So we can't change anything that governs the plan commission itself. So that's all set by statute. So that's all I got to say about that. Is there any more public comments? Yes, Judy. Okay.
I'd like the board to know that there are 2 employees employees basically that work for Parks and Lands. And that's myself and Richard Dunn. And I have attended, I think, just about every single Parks and Lands meeting because I have an intimate knowledge of the porta potties, the ones at Superior Avenue and the ones out at the campground. And when something breaks, like a toilet seat, what do? I presume I could wait and come to the board and say, can I get, or can one of you fix or get something done with that? And that's what I say to the Parks and Lands Committee. The porta potty toilet seat is busted at both of them, the top. Now, anytime that I have brought something to that committee, somebody has stepped up and said, we'll fix it. And there's no cost, whatever. Now, if the board wants to do that, fine and dandy, I'll come and tell you, or the door doesn't shut right at the one on Superior Avenue. Are we gonna spend another $900, $800 to buy a porta potty, or can we get it fixed? Someone always on the Parks and Lands Committee goes out, takes a look, and tries to decide what we can do. I just want the board to know that the committee works and it works well. If we need something on the lands here at the community center, that board has people on it who have served this town extremely well. And I don't feel bad about saying, hey, can I do this or can I do that? Or I'll help do this if you can help do that. I always get a volunteer. And somebody from the board's gonna, if it changes, and you decide to get rid of that committee, or do something that it comes to the board, I will, of course, come to this meeting and tell you that the porta potty thing this is broken, that's broken, this needs to be repaired, this needs to be repaired. And then the board can decide. Right now, the Parks and Lands Committee takes care of that stuff. Planting that grass and putting the ropes up and doing all that stuff, that didn't cost the town one bit of labor. That was all volunteer by that committee. And I just want the board to know that's how it's been working, and it's worked very well. Thank you.
I was just gonna make a comment, I suspect that the wonderful, I've got a lot of help from the committees when I've attended their meetings, so that's not the issue, and I suspect they would do that. I'm not sure they need an ordinance to do that. So I wanna look at the ordinance. This is not about abolishing the committee, it's about the ordinance itself. So, I'm gonna, and I welcome anybody on the committee to read those ordinances with me. And if you want to talk about what's in that ordinance, whether or not we can amend it or whether we should rescind it, whatever we should do, I suspect that you guys would volunteer and help us out, whether or not there was an ordinance. That's just what I suspect, because that's the kind of people you guys are. Thank you.
Last night, I should have forwarded it to everybody, but my mind was elsewhere, which is pretty normal these days. But I did receive an email late yesterday evening as a matter of fact, and it was from a Tiffany Yaddis. But anyway, she is from the Wisconsin Alcohol Policy Project Specialist from the Medical College of Wisconsin in Milwaukee. And she is up here. She's following up on a discussion with Sarah Wortman with Bayfield County Health Department of whom to contact regarding a special research project that they're working on. And the research project that they are working on is named The Impact of Alcohol Policies on Health in Rural Northern Wisconsin. And she did send me a survey link, and they are looking for people to participate in the focus group. And if there's anybody that would be interested, I will send you the email, just let me know.
Go ahead.
Everybody can hear me. Hi, I'm John Anderson. Most of you probably don't know me because I'm a newcomer. And I filed some extensive comments with the board today regarding the 2 agenda items that were tabled about rescinding the ordinances governing the Plan Commission and the Parks and Lands Committee. I don't want to rehash that. I think that if you all read it closely and completely, you might find that it may assuage some of the concerns that you have regarding policy, but I wanted to make a correction to a statement that was made by a board member today about the Parks and Lands Committee's seemingly autonomous ability to spend money by entering into contracts. The section, I've read the ordinances, obviously, and I'm the one that's actually working to help draft the short-term rental ordinance with the Plan Commission. So I have a lot of familiarity with how these things work. And the section that was quoted sounds scary in isolation because it makes Parks and Land sound like it can spend money and get the town into some sort of fiscal difficulty. The section right after the one that was quoted says that the committee shall file with the town treasurer a budget request. The section after that says all revenues received by the activities of the committee shall be paid into the general fund of the town. The section after that, and I think this is a very important one here, is that the committee shall not obligate itself or the town for an amount greater than the balance in the Parks and Lands Fund, meaning that it cannot spend more money than the town gives it, right? So, you know, that's a point that was made here in public discussion that is not based in fact, that used an element of an ordinance without understanding the full context of the ordinance. And one of the things that interested me to show up for this meeting for the first time in 3 years, after attending almost every meeting virtually since I moved here in 2020, was the fact that I worry that decisions made that can affect town policy that helps the community exist now and proactively get managed into the future should be made in rational, objective, fact-based information. And so as we move forward, I would just like to offer my help to anyone on the board who needs help understanding ordinances, how they are crafted, ways to amend them, and the policy implications that that has, so that we actually have a discussion that is grounded in a common basis of rational, factual, objective information. Thank you.
Why would you want to do?
Yeah, I just,
Yep.
I have, okay. I think if I talk loud enough, the few of you can hear me. Can you hear me?
Nope.
No, okay. It's a big room.
You can't get away without using the
All right. I had learned yesterday today at senior dining that there's going to be the availability on Thursday. If you're looking for a COVID booster, you can go to the Cornucopia Farmers Market and get it from Bayfield Public Health. So that's kind of a nifty thing that they're bringing to us. The only other thing I have, Matt, is that I have the ordinance here for the Planning Commission. And I'd like you to look at section 6, number 3, because it's a little different in the fine print than what you said for the requirement of 3 years, because there's some, can I read it to you? Sure. I don't know if it'll make sense. Okay. Section 6 is terms of office. Citizen members is number 3. Citizen members designated by the town chairman shall serve for a period of 3 years as allowed under section 660501, parentheses, 2 Wisconsin statutes. Terms of citizens members shall be staggered, with 2 members being appointed to a 3-year term, 1 person being appointed to a 2-year term, and 1 person being appointed to a 1-year term. So we do have some flexibility there, it appears.
That's just for the initial,
Was it just for the
that's
initial?
for the initial people, then after that, everybody's a 3-year
Okay,
term.
okay, I stand, as being not clear on that.
Any other comments? All right, do we have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Go right ahead.
I'll second.
Motion is,
The motion is made and seconded. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say aye. We're adjourned. Thank you. Hey, Trey.
That's exactly.
Right, yeah, and I said, I know, oh, they don't have to do it, they all do it. But like, yeah, I mean, for the run up that goes on my job, oh, it's all that, you don't need a. It's already, just because I fill it out and they say yes or doesn't mean yes or no once I get it in. But I don't want to go wrong. I hope so. Well, I'm gonna fill it out, I'm gonna bring a check.
Yeah, that's something that I don't think, at my age, it's hard to skip.
Thank you.
Good job, John.
Hey, John, I'd like to get you up on your office.
I used to be a teacher, it comes kind of natural.
So we kind of.
Okay, well then, we speak the same language.
Well, no, I'm embarrassed that I didn't read the.
I know what
You did it exactly right.
Well, you know,
By saying that, I'm not prepared.
Oh, yeah. Hopefully people won't get used to that.
well, yeah.
I do not.
Christie Cookie is awesome, right? You can't beat it. My second question was, since there's no longer any way it seems like, like distribution of committee reports, correspondence doesn't seem like that. Is that still on track somewhere? Really? And it's not. You know, like, under the construction, when the agenda was set up, there were links, like, correspondence was linked, committee reports were linked, and you click on that, you can basically all the documentation, so that as a new citizen, I could follow. Okay, so if that's, and that information's not being archived.
I keep, well, I knew it before, but I'm keeping all the stuff I gotta have a copy of
There
Right.
it is. You got one over here.
I'm just saying, it'd be nice if that was distributed with other information for the rest of us, so we can come to a meeting, we understand the context. You guys are working on it.
Okay, you got the, yep, I see your signature right on the top.
Oh, true, yeah. And there's a lot of technological stuff we can do. The last question the minutes from last month. So there was that section on the in the minutes, it says there was a motion made to discuss. Seconded.
The way the planning commission works is there's nominations for the term. When a term is coming up, then it's announced and
But there's
there's
nothing in the minutes that says what the decision of the person.
Yep, turn in the nomination.
It doesn't,
and it's
it
voted
says
on.
that the motion, I did that was made, but there was not a second.
No, it says,
Oh, yeah.
it says on the thing, there's a second.
He just came on.
I've already made it, that's what he was saying.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah, it was done at, it was done at the, it was done at the April meeting.
Sale
Okay, that's what I
of
wanted.
JD,
It was
seconded
done at
by
the April.
and Lazarus made a motion not to sell it now.
No, because he was appointed. Matter of fact, he didn't.
That's right.
Yeah. Kind of.
Oh, so there was no second? Sorry to be the policy
I'm
one.
sorry.
I was just like,
I pulled it up.
Okay. Got it. So that was.
And
And your point, You need to come stand.
Oh, yeah.
And after that,
Well, he chimes
And
in.
then,
Yeah, no, but like, you know, under Robert's rules, once there's a motion on the table, consider that motion, so it's great.
I still be on the percent. You know, they're there.
No, they should.
Well, my problem is, you know, because I can't just watch what's going on. I gotta watch what I'm typing. Now, if I'm gonna type, like bring it here and then with here, I'm H. You know, I'm looking at the E, but I'm looking at E, so I'm seeing what's next to it. So, yeah.
So under, okay,
My
so under.
fingers never.
I will give you the. I mean.
All right. Yeah, I'm just better. You know where I got it?
Yeah. And honestly, because they did resolve the I was just asking because like, there are no, like, you're the clerk, so I just wanted to You don't even make a motion to discuss. All right, I'm still learning. I'm glad you enjoyed it.
Yes, I saw them, I said, well, this is the wrong place.
Well, yeah, that's the thing, so, I order from locally all the time. Not expecting a package.
But that was 100%.
I get a picture of my customer.
No, it was like, no, they had, all I did was.
I mean, I can understand. They're good.
Everybody had to take.
Yeah. Yeah, you're welcome.
And I got, one of my classmates from that class. I'm stopping in the hall and said, this is O'Brien, said, this is the back of the last week's class. I went back to the last week's class, and she gave me a D minus. Wow, man. Give me a D minus. I mean, I just couldn't stand it. Oh, and I did tell my nephew, he'll be up in August, and I told him, and he says, now, you remember me telling you the pickleball courts are important. Where's my dad? Matter of fact, last time I talked to him, I said, what are you up to? He said, I'm in a pickleball tournament. It's like,
so the whole reason I started.
to me, it kind of looks like ping pong with all the games. I watched the video that a couple did, like, kind of like a satire on it. Yeah. I mean, it wasn't. I mean, last time I played anything like that was many decades ago. My brother and I went to the high school. When we played tennis again, we would play on 3 courts.
You have
Take care.
That's what motivated me to get started. One more check.
Howdy. How
you doing, Jackie?
Oh, I'm good. I had a second until we had discussion.
Well, thank you. No, that's why, right. A big expense. I would have the whole justification.
Yeah, I mean, Matt started that even long before this, he's the one that said that. Yeah, I see Nortrax has a long range excavator there. With the grants for a couple days, so that's how we started in town. We got it for a couple days and done it there. So I mean, it makes sense because it's easy to do cheap to do that.
That's how they fix it.
Yeah.
Days when- You want us to get a check?
Yes, yep.
Well,
Yeah, for sure.
and, you know, and people want us to zoom it.
Oh, yeah, excitement.
Maybe there are people.
I was gonna try to
Maybe
get
they
over
get
it.
your ass in the chair.
That-
Things over.
I thought maybe I'd see it tonight. I said,
Do you
you
really care, or do you
Well, we're not
want
gonna
to
make a
watch
decision.
entertainment in your pajamas?
Yeah.
That's,
I'm 100%.
so, yeah.
Yeah, Joel
that's
does- you know
what
Joel
I do.
does?
I'm not
Yeah.
gonna do too much pushback.
Yeah, he was telling me about it. I talked to him a few times. I've done work for him, so every time
Oh,
I
yeah.
see him
Well, that's
somewhere we
good.
talk. Yeah, he helped us with the air.
Yeah.
So, that's what I got this for, girl. Because we moved there, we got. And, one of the little snotty nose kids. 4 years ago.
All of us went.
Small world, isn't it?
Yeah, there was somehow, they were together. You have.
Yeah.
The workshop.
We better turn off the camera.
Yeah, I know. Look at that, that's a good deal.